diligently.
Bob, all right.
The only thing we might ask you to look at the attorney shows up.
I'm ready right now.
Okay. So
You're right on.
come on over here, so you're not on
This
camera.
is on break.
Wait, Mike's over there?
It's like the Grammys, and here's the red carpet right here.
I'm sorry.
Alright. Anyways, with that, anyone, any corrections or comments, as far as the minutes go? Could I ask, someone to, move to accept the minutes? Amy? Jim? Ann? What did I say?
Yeah, that's
Ann.
okay.
John seconded?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay.
Just one thing to note in there, is it okay?
Sure.
Under annual election of officers and committees, everyone, agreed to stay on at their current position, and we did change up the revolving loan committee a little bit, and we, placed, Ann on it and took off, Jim Bono. So, just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Okay, let's move to the financial reports. And with that, there were a couple changes that, John, do you want to just mention that were changed regarding the pension?
Well, just to make some notes, you'll see some larger numbers. If you've reviewed it in December, it was for our employee benefits, that went up to 27,000. That was our end of the year paying into our pension fund about 23,000. And if you look at the bottom line, you see that our ending balance was $1.3 million. I wish that money came in and went right out the 2nd of January for the purchase of the Windecker property. Other than that, everything looks very good. Have a lot of new projects coming in. This doesn't include the fact of we haven't closed on Enchanted Forest yet. With Forge Properties, there will be another additional 30,000 coming in for that, and several solar projects that are due to hit this year, and we can talk about those a little bit later. But does anyone have any questions about the budget? All of our loans are up to date as well.
Can I have someone approve the financial reports as presented?
I'll approve.
Corey, Mike second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. All right, let's move to the, couple things on item number 5, as far as authorization of the executive director to execute the change.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So you don't have the handout, I apologize for that. The appropriation agreement is what we sign with the county every year in order to draw down the funds that we receive from them. This year, as you know, it was reduced down to $100,000. However, in the past, Jim Bono, as chairman of our IDA, was able to sign that. He is unable to sign both, being chairman of the legislature. So I'm asking the board to put, to allow me to be the signature on that agreement.
Can I have a motion to have John be the signature for that agreement, please?
I'll make the motion to make a motion of John.
John, second. Kate, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Motion carried. Okay.
The second thing on here is, as you know from our last meeting, we won the micro enterprise grant for $200,000 through the Community Development Block Grant. We had a conference call the other day with them, ourselves, as well as Jim Wallace and a few people from his office. As before, it was determined we would be the sub-recipient. We would be the sub-recipient of the grant, so we need to sign an agreement with the county. What that does is we receive all of the administration fees through that, but because the way that the grant is set up, it can only go through municipalities such as the county. So we need you to all agree that we can sign that document and be the recipient of that agreement. Also to know about that, we're working to come up with like a marketing sheet, right, Victoria? Something that will allow all the businesses to understand what it is and what they need to qualify in order to take advantage of that grant. It's truly a grant program. It's not a loan, it's a grant program.
Can we have a motion to have the IDA be the agreement signer for the county on the CDBG micro enterprise agreement?
That would be John signing?
That would be me signing.
John signing it. favor? Motion carried. Okay. Number 6, Skylar Business Park.
Okay, so, we had, we'll start out with the GHD proposal. As you know, we've been working closely with them on, Manheim and the Skylar Park, as well as with our grant with, National Grid for a lot of the different, aspects to make that park ready, move in, shovel ready, all of those good headlines. So, we got a new proposal from GHD after our last conversations with them. The previous one, I believe, was like $49,000. So we're down to $29,000. What I'd like approval of today is because we'd like to move ahead and they can do it any time of year, and we'd really like to do it before the person that we're allowing to plant in there again next year, this coming season, if it's necessary. Let's hope it's not. We'd like to get the boring samples, the geotechnical evaluation done, and we also need to hire the drilling consultant, which would be hired through GHD. The SHPO right now, I'd like to hold off on, but I'd like to do the 14,600 and the $9,400. What the geotechnical is going to do is, because we looked at that site in 3 different stages, one having a 2 million square foot facility there, and then another one that would have 1 million square foot with 2 smaller structures. We want to do 6 borings. Good morning. We want to do 6 borings located throughout the property instead of 14. We feel as though we don't need that. And after talking to a couple of large developers, no matter what we did, they would still come back in and do more intense borings, which would probably be, if they were doing a 2 million square foot facility, they'd probably do about 28 borings is what they told us. So instead of us, the burden of all that cost, this will give them all a good sampling of what needs to be done. So, and we do have money budgeted for that, so.
So a motion to hire GHD Consulting to do the work on the Skylar Business Park?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Well, how about the motion to
Oh,
second, any
please.
questions?
Okay, but
The quote went down 20 grand. What dropped out? Anything important?
Some of the borings, and then once we selected where the locations were, it made it easier for them. And I also told him that if he didn't, well, I did strong arm him a little bit, but we did reach out to a couple other firms in the Syracuse area, and because he's using local consultants, it made it more attractive too. To bring in the drilling subcontractors from like the Syracuse area, where the other ones were, they were almost triple that cost. And I'm like, to drive a truck here and do that, but it's crazy, because you know why? Everybody's busy. And that's one of the biggest problems we're having, where he can get these guys in. He'll most likely use Central Paving, and so they'll work with us on getting things processed quickly. This is all part of putting together, so this property in Skylar now will just be, which we're gonna go market the heck out of next 2 weeks, I think it is, down in New York City, and then we still have another couple other developers coming up to take a look, so. I hope that answered you, John.
Yeah.
John, are we approving all 3?
No, not the SHPO.
Just 1.2 and 1.3?
Out of the grant we got from National Grid right now, I'm working with somebody else that grant might cover that SHPO, so I'd rather not use that money. I'd rather use the grant money.
Okay, so it's 24,000 we're looking at now.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, less than the 50, yeah, 24,000.
any other discussion or questions? Okay, can I have a motion that we hire GHD Consulting to perform the work on the Skylar Business Park? Mike, second, Kate, all those in favor signify by aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Valley Sign.
Well, we reached out to a company called Valley Sign. Steve Lowe, the junior, owns the company. They're based out of Sequoia. He bought Mr. Sign. I don't remember what the name of it was called before. Well, anyways, we had him in. He took a look at some things. I think there was some miscommunication there. So we're asking him to relook at that. So I'd like to table that for now. However, we know that we need a new sign at that location. We know that we're going to put some things around it to make it more attractive. We'll be talking about getting someone on board to maybe go around through all of them this year and do a little more on our properties to make them viable when we're going around marketing. And if you really go on Route 5, you cannot really read anything that's on that sign. So we're looking at solar lights and other things to make it more so we can attract businesses there. We're also looking at a sign to put on the inside of the property that will be visual from the throughway that says, if you can read this sign, you'd already be home. You know, so it kind of attracts, just, I might not be those exact words, but something to that a lot of people travel that throughway and can see that they could put some distribution
I
there.
think we all have seen the JBF stainless new sign.
I love it.
That, I think it lights up from the
I love
moon.
it.
And I wait till you see the new Adirondack food and fuel sign. It's a beacon.
So you won't see the JBS stainless.
They-
sign, 'cause they're
NASA's
all-
gonna be requiring us to dim it at certain times. So, but I'm gonna table that, but I just wanted y'all to know. I thought we thought we might have something yesterday. We didn't really like what he proposed, so we need something that people can see. You know, we wanna make this a park that when
Is
we're
there
putting.
an issue there with getting it closer to Route 5
There is, on that center triangle, they won't allow us to put anything there,
because of the,
so.
it's so close to that?
Yeah, yeah, and it would block people trying to get in and out. And the more I push for that, they might request us to look at another entrance and exit to the park, and we don't want that.
Okay. Moving ahead to Dufel.
Okay, so, with the help of our attorney, Tony Halleck, everyone, we were.
Raise your hand.
For the camera, you're on the cam, and, also with the Village of Ilion. I am not gonna sign the consent order today, I just want your approval to do that. We just wanna verify a couple other things, but we pushed back on the DEC with Tony's help of not being charged by them for any administrative costs that they would have, they usually charge us for that, and not to be held responsible for any mitigation of contaminants that went off-site. So they agreed to hold us harmless for both of those, which is huge. Normally they charge, and normally they say you're in charge of everything, so this was huge for us. So, it's something we wanna continue with, and I'll probably make the decision on signing it and letting you all know, but I'd like the approval now, cause I know it's probably gonna happen next week after one more meeting.
Any questions? If
The,
not,
sorry,
go ahead.
contamination off-site, you're talking about the neighboring properties?
The neighboring properties, what happens now, the property's here, the canal's here, most of the time it goes that way. But everything we've done now, we haven't started the phase 2 yet, this'll help us along with the phase 2, is that, the chemical, so if a chemical's X, you know, and it has Y and Z part of it, there's more Y and Z now than there is X, so natural, mitigation has happened, it's breaking down on its own. So, and when they tried to do studies in the neighborhood, no one would allow them on the property. But one of the things that DEC has said is, you have pipes going there, you're not using well water. You might be on your own, but that's not part of the way that you're taking care of your drinking water. So, they were okay with that, as well as the cost was a huge, they could charge quite a bit, right, Tony? So for us to add, we asked, and we met with DEC up in Watertown, it's so funny, DEC has one office on Main Street in Herkimer. That doesn't cover it, what we're doing here, they go to Watertown. Watertown, you know, the DEC down here covers some streams and creeks, and they have to go up to Watertown, so I don't know.
And I had to negotiate with Albany.
Yeah, so. But it worked out, I mean, it's truly to our advantage. Once again, that Dufel property we're doing quite well with, and really, you know, it's been working out well.
So you've got a finalization with any issues, there's not gonna be with these.
Well, we're not at the remediation stage
No.
yet, this is the investigative
Okay.
part, but the
Okay.
part of our moving forward was, we're not gonna be on the hook, and they wanna see something happen with this site, so I capitulated.
The original agreement, Tony didn't like, and he really went through it, and I truly appreciate, I came right out and asked him, Tony, is this in your wheelhouse? Yes, and if not, I have people, and it truly helped us, because without pushing back with Albany, like I said, we don't want those costs, or responsibility.
Right, right.
Really surprised of confusion with the DEC. Never heard of such a thing.
But I don't know,
Very
if-
careful, be careful.
I don't know if they're confused.
Oh, I guess they'll cut my feet.
I'll tell you though, the engineers we're dealing with in Watertown, there's 2 of them, and they have been fantastic. They really wanna see that property developed and something happen to it. And that's the feeling you're getting from DEC today. I mean, they have to do certain things, but they're willing to help any way that they can. It's very exciting.
It's amazing. Being on camera, this meeting will be done in 20 minutes versus.
Well, we had a huge,
Okay, so with that, can I have a motion to have John Pizek be able to sign the consent order with the DEC? Is that?
Yep.
Someone approve that?
I approve it.
Second,
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Oh, I didn't even say who the people was. You know, I'm a little bit out of my wheelhouse on this.
You're
one.
doing
I'm
good.
getting ready for the Super Bowl.
You are doing good.
All right. I think I'm nervous. Yeah, I like it better when I sit over there, not on camera, and I don't
Maybe
have
on the 6 o'clock.
to be on top of listening to everything. I don't have the chance to daydream. I didn't wear any makeup today. I'm not on, we think I'm on CNN? All right.
Oh.
They do pat you down, honestly, when you go on.
Do they? Well,
They do.
I'm working up a sweat. Let's go to the next, HRP proposal.
So you already verbal it, we just need a motion and a second to approve it. They were there, what day next week were they there? Did they come get the key? Thursday? So they were there Thursday with the structural engineer. The reason the cost is so low is because they're doing HRP a favor. They wanna see some other work out of HRP. They were able to, the guy had some time, they were able to get him down here. They went through the entire facility. This is gonna be in conjunction with our asbestos assessment. So what we're really looking to do is save as much of all the structures as we can. You can save everything, in which I'm really pushing for. There are some areas where they're worried that the asbestos came down and migrated through some of the other parts. Plus, with bringing the structural engineer in, it made us go back to the original asbestos assessment for some things that they saw that they didn't check. So by going back to that, there was no additional cost for that, but this was $2,200, which, you know, I thought was very reasonable in getting that done. So we just need a motion in a second.
Can I have a motion to approve HRP for doing the structural evaluation of Duple?
I got it.
Mike, motion. Kate, second. All those in favor? Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay.
The pilot deviation. So we're gonna hold off on doing our side of the pilot deviation now that we have all of the municipalities in place. So as we work closer with a developer, then we'll hold a public hearing and change it. But what happened is we met with the county, the village, the town, and the school district, and they all agreed to zero property tax on the dual-fold property for 10 years after purchase by a developer. So that's going to entice. When I was out presenting, most of them said 15, 20. I said, we're a small community, 10. They all said that would work in that area. Plus with the funding stack of everything else we're working on, from historic tax credits, new market tax credits, environmental justice area with this adds a nice thing to get a developer to come here. Historic tax credits, which we're working on as well. So that'll be good. And Bob came to the meeting with the town. We thought that went really well. They were nice about everything. So we're good to go there. So as talking with Tony, as we get closer with a developer, then we'll start our process. So that was just information.
Manheim.
Yes. So some of you might remember the Manheim additional cost way back before we were told they agreed to giving us water and sewer. So now that that has been finalized, that the village and the town have worked out an agreement that we can move ahead with water and sewer, we received a new proposal from GHD, and it's for $7,500. The $7,500 will come from the open grant that we still have for down there to develop the park, so none of the money will come out of the IDA. Also too, it's reduced quite a bit from his initial proposal to us. So we'll require some additional maps that'll show where the water and sewer line, 2 maps. They'll come up with a plan, the overall cost. We feel as though, because the county has been very supportive, the grants that we have in place, that it won't require any bonding from either municipalities, so we can work through, and most likely will not have to go through the controller's office for this. So I need a motion.
A motion to approve GHD to complete the engineering, water and sewer on the Manheim Business Park.
Got it.
Okay, John, that approved, and
Second.
a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, and motion carried.
Okay, nobody had any additional questions? I just didn't want to block it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 9. Sure. This is like the TV show Survivor. They're having before they vote, they're having our secret meeting, let's see if that's gonna be voted off of that, alright.
So, but this, there's two of them, so the first one we'll be talking about. So this, for number 9 is we're, North Country Ecological Services. One of the other things we need in Schuyler is a wetland study. We all know how great the property is. He came out here, did a walk with what he agreed to, that price 700, I forget what it was the first time, it was a low amount. So now what he'll do is he'll map the property. He's coming back with a proposal. He'll map the property. He'll work with the Corps of Engineers, because that's one of the things, I forget what exactly he calls that, the C of something, to make sure that they're all on page so when we're marketing this site again. So I would like be able to go up to $4,500. I truly believe it'll be less than that unless he's watching this. I would like to be able to do up to $4,500 to agree to assign an agreement with him to complete the wetland study. So with all the information he gives us, then we can go do the final survey on the property in order to let the developer survey.
So,
Is the archaeological study been finished?
No, they're working on that now.
alright, so can I have someone approve a motion to, hire North Country Ecological Services for a maximum amount of $4,500 to complete the wetland study
The Schuyler business.
in the Schuyler Business Park. I got Mike approved, second, Kate, all those in favor? Aye. No, motion carried. Alright, number 10. So in your packet was some pages about an online executive leadership class that's being offered by Cornell University, where it would be done online. I'm thinking there's maybe 40 hours of content.
I think there's a
or
little
stuff
more than that. 48.
that way that John is asking to consider as far as improving his executive management skills, his shyness of proposals and things like that. So, the one thing,
is enough for that?
well, I was really thinking that, is this class really gonna change his personality? But anyways, I did talk to John a little bit about this. I'm just one person on this. I felt that $5,000 was quite a bit of money for something like this. I don't want to stymie John's enthusiasm and growth and trying to become better, but that was just my two cents into commenting on that. I'd welcome if any of you, of the rest of the board had their thoughts on this and would like to share them this about particular number 10.
Well, John, you would complete this, of course, you would probably be top of the class, but what benefit would it be to us? Can you use it on, like, your business card, can you use it when you make the whole, in other words, on this, what do you get out of that?
I agree with what you're saying with that too. I looked at that because it is Cornell and that would be something I would discuss. I could put that certificate on there. I could put it on my LinkedIn page. We could put it on our LinkedIn page. It'd give me another avenue to look at what's going on out there. Myself and Dave did have a good discussion this morning. He pretty much said I could probably teach half of those, but I don't think you'd learn enough. I'm always constantly looking to learn more. However, I'm not opposed to taking a look at something else, as I mentioned to Dave. I'm not opposed to looking at other things. It would be very hard for me to take a week to go to a training again. Last June, I did the one for the economic development, I forget exactly what it was called now, through the IEDC, and I couldn't do that again now. I couldn't take a week out of here to do that, plus with the homework that we had and everything else. So I thought online would be the best way, and there is some interaction too with the instructors. However, I'm not opposed, but if you guys think that this is something that wouldn't benefit everybody, I'd ask for y'all to take a look at something that you think that might. I looked around quite a bit. I get emails from them, Columbia, MIT, on different things for business development. But I'd like the input more than just the yes or no.
I can give you input on the pricing of it, because this is in line with what my group does as well. I would quote this at 48 hours for a local company here in Herkimer between $4,500 and $5,500. So that's a comment just on the pricing, and I've engaged with Cornell in this learning series in the past, and it is top-notch education. I mean, there's no question, it's hands down great education. That's my comment.
That's a good comment.
So,
I'll just echo what Corey had to say. I mean, I take similar management, leadership, trainings. But it's nice that this is online. That way it's convenient. It really does fall in line with the price. You get what you pay for, honestly, so.
So, John, I went to Cornell, he asked me, well, what professors I said, I went there 35 years ago, I
You don't
don't know,
look that
Then you
all
have
the
computers,
professors I
then,
had are
Do they
gone.
have computers then?
No!
I think there's other people in your family that just finished it.
Alright, so, anyways, so, do we, as a board, wanna act on this? Do we want to maybe look at some other options first, before we approve something like that? What's kind of the consensus of the group?
Well, I think with Corey's comments, I think I would go along with that.
Okay. Alright, so, you're thinking that we should, your thought is that we should
Yes.
send John to Cornell and do it?
Mhm.
Okay, alright. Would you like to make that into a motion?
Make that a motion.
Alright. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Now, all those in favor of sending John to the Executive Leadership Program at Cornell University signify by saying aye.
Alright.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. Alright.
I'll call you all when the graduation party is. It'll be festive. I'll get it.
better be.
An online party.
John, when does it start?
Every month, the class can start again, so I won't do it this month, of course, it's the end of the month, but next month I'd like to start and get going with this,
So we can have like a spring graduation?
so. We can have a spring graduation, and I'll keep everybody in the loop what's going on, and I appreciate it.
Like a report card every month.
Yeah. The only reason why y'all approved it, because no one wanted to look for any other courses, let's be honest.
Well, we didn't, we
No.
thought this might
No.
come with hockey tickets.
Oh. No, I know, I'm just kidding.
You know,
Good
to
call.
look at it,
Good call there.
Hey,
I don't-
Cornell hockey is
I wouldn't know if this
number
was
one in
good
the
or bad.
country already.
Right.
When Corey spoke up, then I figured,
For college.
Thanks, John.
It truly is a top-notch program.
Well, they have outstanding graduates, alumni.
It's not like I need to take on anything else, but though I think other programs where I can learn other aspects of what I'm doing, I think it's true in here.
I thought that there was an Adam Schiff leadership.
Ouch.
Oh, I'm on camera again. Oh, geez, my attorney is elbowing me. All right, with that of John having executive, let's go to Happy Trails.
you're truly
Alright.
transparent.
Happy Tales.
Oh, Tails, not trails. Go.
So, yeah.
This meeting is, see, you need Bono back.
Control.
Yeah.
I'm out of control.
You should know Noah's he's watching this.
Now he's in a meeting, I asked him to watch it. He tried to comment, but he can't. So we've been going back and forth with Happy Tales for quite a long time now. She finally got us some information yesterday. She reached out to the county for support on it. She's been talking to a lot of people. It's not for a lack of us doing it. I just want that on the record. We've requested information now for months. So yesterday she brought in some things. It was sent out to the loan committee. Not sure who had a chance to look at it yet. What I would like to do is, I don't think you need to make that decision right now unless you're positive that you wanna move ahead with it, but maybe what we can do instead of having another meeting, that if the loan committee approves it, cause I know it went out late, and I don't want anybody to rush through unless you three have made a decision.
I looked at the numbers, I'm comfortable with them.
Did you look at anything?
And the only reason-
I was on Happy Trails, so I was.
The only
But
reason
since
why I hesitated on the first one was, because I truly believe that our rules for this loan is you have to have the most current financial
Yeah.
information, and there wasn't there. Now it comes in, I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, and certainly looks like she can handle that, they can handle that, so I'd be okay with.
So I'll defer to two of my more intelligent board, committee people that approve it. I haven't had a chance, but I will,
You're gonna get
I'm gonna
voted down
just
anyways.
go get dragged along with this.
What I need though from the three of you is an email replying back to that saying you
Okay.
approve for documentation. And then what we'll need is a motion here. Just one other thing, they bought, her and her partner, I guess, bought the Evening Telegram old building. So that's something that's on the tax rolls that we were afraid about would just be abandoned, so that's a real big positive. She has some long-term goals, she still needs to get a business plan in place, but I think this would give her a nice little kickstart as well as you mentioned, so if you're all, then you can move ahead with that.
Okay, then,
Does she use the old newspapers for the dog?
She does actually, yeah, for gerbils mostly. However, this will not go through until we do, I have to say it again, until you email replies back from the three of you saying it's approved, because we have a process. After it goes from here, we have to go to the state. And if we don't have all that documentation, it will not get approved. So, just so you know that.
so you want
I'm
to.
sure I'll get
So
a
I will
follow-up
give
on
Colleen
that.
all of your phone numbers and email addresses.
Sherry has mine.
Yeah, yeah, went to the county, like that change.
So I would like a motion to approve Happy Tales loan, subject to the committee emailing in their approval as well. And John second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, project updates.
Okay, want me to just start rolling?
You get going.
Okay, Frankfurt 5S Business Park, the pump station that went down in the flood of Halloween is a couple things that are still lacking. They sent it out to Illinois where it was made. There's no, the air conditioner in it needs to be replaced and something else right now, but those are minor. We're hoping to have it back within 2 weeks. The pad is already in place that it's going to be mounted to on the other side of the road, so we shouldn't have the same issue as the flooding before. They will not take over the road. Changes were made to, the town of Frankfurt will not take over the road or the cul-de-sac. Changes were made by H&M, the contractor for Tractor Supply, but right now we want to wait till the spring to see how the flooding does work out. So those are two things that we're working on there. Also, we had the town contact me yesterday, and they said that I bamboozled them, was his word, that we threw an extra 30 acres of on their agreement that they said they never agreed to in the past. I truly believe that they agreed to that and that we weren't just throwing it in there, but we'll have to talk about that at some point. I said, if you don't want to give it back, it's not going to get taxed or anything. I don't know what's the hill there. He's worried the hill might, one of their councilman said the hill might fall down. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what to tell him. Maybe we'll make Tractor take it, I don't know.
Nothing to do with it.
It's all news to me, so.
Yeah, it just came yesterday. He just called me yesterday.
So you gave away 30 acres of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Shine.
I know, I've given away the house here. Mannheim, I think we're all covered there. Metropolitan Planning Organization presentation on the railroad spur and some cut-ins. We're looking at Friday morning at 9:30 at the Herkimer Oneida County Planning at the train station. I'll be presenting to them on the railroad spur for them to do a study, as well as look at some cut-ins along Route 5S. So those are my presentations for Friday. They do have funding from the federal government, and we did receive letters of endorsement from most of our elected on that project. So we're excited about that. The railroad spur could generate a lot of revenue and a lot of things here in the area for us, from trucking to scrap to repair service that could be there. So we see some good potential there. Our EPA grant, we drew in down the last of the funds, the $59.50. So we still keep track of our hours. That might count towards some other grants we get. But EPA seems very happy with what we're doing, the meetings we attend, the press we get. Shortly, we'll have the local regional manager for there. His name is Jose, I can't think of his last name right now. He was an assemblyman down in the southern parts of the state, not far from here, in Schoharie County area. And he's going to come in and do a presentation for us, which would only help us out too. And I'll let everybody aware of that if they want to attend that. The Capital Resource Corporation, or the LDC, still some interesting things going on there. I'll be in Albany, as I mentioned. Joseph Scott will be there. I know he's had some contacts with Jim Bono. One of our concerns is if they change the law that says no elected officials can be on those boards, that'll drop some issues. So it might be most of this board minus Mr. Bono, and then that one probably most of this board, and we'd have to find someone new to take over. So it's interesting. I don't know why. They're having a lot of issues downstate with it, so that's most of the problems. You know, they set up an LDC in a borough, the guy who has control of it, it all goes to his projects. So that's where we're seeing some of those issues. The Eastern Mohawk Valley Water Transmission Line, we agreed to do the survey right now. He's working on that. I should have a timeline, somewhat of a schedule. We need to report some things to the Department of State, as well as Mr. Wallace wants some things, so he set aside some money out of your $20 million fund balance to support this. So that'll just take some time, but we'll set that aside, and we should have that to him by the end of maybe 3 weeks from now. It's just trying to get everything and give him a rough idea where to support that. Old Forge property, oh wait, did anybody have questions on the transmission line? Just so, because that one really is got some good legs to it. It's about $3.4 million for the grant already, and we are already working on additional grants to put the pipe in the ground. So just so everybody knows that. We think everybody will be on board, all the communities too, because it's just, it should not really affect them bottom line to get out, and 2 of the communities just need a valve, and the rest of them would.
But all the
utilize it.
communities have signed on.
All 5 have MOUs, which they agreed to look at everything, which continues with the study, but when we get closer, right, to the actual, we're gonna need a little bit more from them. So, and then we already did send over, which I didn't hear back from Pat Bescher today, but they had their water authority meeting last night. We needed a resolution from them to, agree to provide us the water and agree to take over the water line, because the IDA does not wanna own, we don't own that. So we took on as lead agency because we could support that project. Old Forge Properties, we're hoping to close next month. It's been, since the snow was on the ground last year. So, we'd really like to see that close. That's about $30,000 for the agency. And that's important for us to continue. They're taking advantage of the pilot program now. So we just need to close off on that. And we hope to do other projects with them. And, we see some other things that could be happening with them this coming year. Review all policies. Does everybody have this down? No? Okay, for board members only. At our next meeting, we're gonna need everybody to give us their input on the policies. You'll see the handout there. So, it'll talk about, and we might be looking to add a couple more after we had in, Corey's group to look at some, our, what was the name of the policy he was trying to do, our cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity, yeah.
So, Corey's organization AIM gave us a no-cost evaluation. They came in and evaluated what we're doing. So, we definitely wanna look to make sure we're on track for that, we're not having some issues, who's saving, where it's going, and everything else.
We have a whistleblower policy.
We do, but we can't identify him unless we have to go to court. So next meeting, there will be questions. There will be questions on this, so please review them at your leisure, but they are all on our website. On the last page here is our evaluation, that everybody filled out at our last meeting. I always constantly want to improve. I thank you for everyone filling this out. I do see that there was one that, somewhat disagree and clear measurable performance and goals. If anybody has any input, you know, I like talking to every one of you, so I don't mind any feedback that you give me. Constructive criticism is great. I just want to make us so we don't have these things, because the controller does see them. We send them in through the ABO reporting. But if you see things that you'd like to see more, I'd really like to see, you know, get that feedback from you. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. $20, a little higher than the total. Yeah, $20. So please take a look at that too. We will be discussing the at the next agenda the policies. Also too, the CDBG micro enterprise grant, we talked about that a little bit. We will be creating like a cut sheet for that and doing a PR, do some PR on that to get that out there. We really want to utilize those grant funds. There is a day class that everyone has to take that's sponsored by the Small Business Development Center. And it'll work with them on forming their business plan. Remember, most of the businesses are 5 and under, so and owner run, so that's one of the keys to that. And we can offer up to a $35,000 grant, so that's real important. That's some good money to help somebody out. Turbo Machine Products, just want to let you know we're done with both of their projects to date. We are working on a couple new ones. But these ones that they completed 2006 and 2009, those projects are done. ABO report, board training, everybody signed up or not, John Scarano?
There is one that has not yet.
Would that be John Scarano? Okay, so thank you for the other three for signing up, but John
How many times you
Scarano.
gotta do this?
3 years.
If your last name is Scarano, every 3 years, right? Is it 3 years? Yeah. If you're a boat builder and all
I
that.
did it, I met him, he's a great guy,
He
he's got
is.
beautiful boats, he don't have to do this.
No, he doesn't, because he doesn't sit on
So it's every
any.
3 years?
Yes.
We'll send you another link.
Please.
Okay.
I know I've done it before.
We
Is it
signed up.
changed?
No, what? No, you just
I
have,
passed the first time.
yeah.
Be careful, you don't fail.
He's retired, he can say whatever he wants.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Okay, no.
On that, John.
Okay, solar projects, I wanna touch base on those. Yesterday I met with the Frankfurt Schuyler School District, they were concerned about their, pilot. They kinda said it was a wash, I don't quite understand that, I called Tony on that. You know, they wanna really look at what we're doing for a policy and maybe change out the pilot payments and the time frame. We don't think that's a good idea, we wanna continue our 2% escalating clause over 15 years, we think that's the way to go. So that project that they're talking about is the Watkins one, that's part of Schuyler and Herkimer. That's about a $24 million project, similar to 3 others that'll happen in Manheim. And then we have some smaller ones going in, we have 2 smaller ones going up in the town of Fairfield, which I met with the other night, those look really good, those are along a farmer's property where he has a windmill currently. So the board is very enthusiastic about it, it's not really using up farmland, you know, tillable farmland, so that was good for them. We do have another one up in Norway, I think, no, or either Russia or Norway. They're looking at a solar farm up there, Nextamp, the same ones that are completing in Little Falls. And then they're still moving ahead with the Columbia one, that's the 350 megawatt system. So then I was at a meeting last Thursday night, sorry, it's getting a little foggy, last Thursday night, and I met another solar project individual that wants to come talk to us too. So there's a lot the governor's really putting a push on these. We're one of the few counties that has a photovoltaic policy, which really separates us because it's already in place. What we're seeing downstate is the school districts are fighting that they want 75–80% of the pilot on farmland that they weren't collecting nearly that amount of tax. But we've been lucky around here, so. And we had public hearing, their attorney asked, well, did you have a public hearing? Yeah, we're like, oh yeah, we had mailers, we had everything to show them, so they couldn't, so we were good.
I know there is an individual in the town of Frankfurt that's been approached by 3 different solar companies, and they're pushing hard to get one in the town of Frankfurt.
Oh, well, that's good, as long as it's near a substation for them, we'll have, do you know how big it is?
No.
No, okay, yeah, that's okay, you know, that's one of the governor's things, he really wants this, you know, the green energy, and he does look at these communities, like the town of Little Falls now has a moratorium on them, that does hurt them when he takes a look at what's going on, so. Paychex is going very well with us, things have worked out good, thanks for allowing us to sign up with them. They've brought it in, you know, the posters we need to sign, and we're supposed to have an HR meeting with them soon. Just a lot changing, so it's good that we're utilizing them. I just wanted to bring up again the Village of Herkimer's, that I sent around to everybody, their negotiations on what they wanted to do with the the Quackenbush property. If any of you want to discuss any of that, I'm happy to do it. It was really not negotiations, it was pretty much just, we'll take care of, the IDA should take care of everything and then just turn it over to them. So, I think we're just waiting now for the case. Probably won't be to, front of the, Court of Appeals till, I'm gonna probably say July, maybe, August. That was a guess by our guys, by Chuck Malcolm, so we'll have to see there. Next week, there'll be a meeting at Cornell, I think it's next week or the week after, on the ag district set up through the, from the county's side of perspective, and they're looking to add ag specialists for economic development. I don't know where that funding would come from, but they made recommendations that it should fall under the IDA. I believe that it should be a half-time person to start anyways until we could get some kind of funding for that, whether it's grant or other things. We could probably support that, but I wanted the board to know because we would have to make that decision, you would have to make that decision if we wanna bring somebody else on. But that'll be a recommendation. I can share with you what they've decided. I'm happy to email that out to
Who
you.
would hire them, us or them?
Us. It would be under us. So,
Is there anything you'll learn at your online class?
to hire somebody, of course, for ag. It's Cornell.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Can I go back to the Village of Herkimer?
Yes.
Maybe you wanna do that in executive?
No, there's nothing, this is a public document.
Okay.
This is,
Well, that's my question. Is the rest of Herkimer legislature know about that?
all the legislators were copied on that from
All
our
copied. Have you gotten any response from, in other words, then they all agree with that, or they?
No,
condone it?
well, one replied said, this doesn't look like negotiations to me, something like that, those were their words.
I guess, how can I say this, in other words, this person sent it. Was that in agreement with the rest of the board?
Their board. to
So
send
they
that.
all agreed?
They all said to send
Send
that
that
to
to
us,
us.
yep.
Can I give this board the response that I said?
Sure.
Leave it alone, don't touch it. I wouldn't even talk to these guys again, I'm sorry.
No.
I would leave it alone, a very good attorney, done. That, to me, that was insulting. I'll leave that alone. I'm sorry. But you can't negotiate like that. Nope, can't negotiate like that. And to get your whole board to just say, yeah, go ahead, send that to them, my gosh. But that's okay. So I don't know if we need to agree that we don't talk to these people anymore. I mean, it's just, how can you respond to anything like that? I would just leave it
I
alone.
think we've reached out.
Oh, yeah, previously, John has done, he's tried more than once.
Well, because it's in litigation, should we be reaching out to them at all?
Well, they can send us anything, and we talked with Chuck Malcolm, we could, if we could settle this, that would be great, but it's not settling.
Right.
It's us agreeing to everything that, and then some. Even if we lost the case, we wouldn't be doing what that says to do. I sent it to you, right?
I'm familiar with it.
You want it?
I'm good.
I mean, it was sent in such a professional manner.
I was just gonna say, that's so unprofessional the way that was.
Exactly.
That's-
It's just, it's what we've been
You know,
dealing with for 15 years, 20
That's
years.
just,
It's definitely not negotiation.
no. No, but I mean, just the way it was sent was like, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. I'm not sure who's on that board, who's not on that board. But
Nobody in this room.
No, this board would never send out anything like that. And if we did, we'd be wrong also.
All right, any other? Bill, do you have any comments about?
I think you did a great job, but you may have inadvertently gave Jim some negotiating leverage to negotiate a higher wage.
All right, well, I just want you to know that if you notice, John's picture was on the front page of the newspaper the weekend. And look at our new improved director now, that beard is gone. So we got a lean, mean director for this year. We're ready to go.
Like I say, I appreciate, you guys letting me come down here. I think you're doing a great job here for Herkimer County. And, anything we can do to help out, that's what we're here for. And we appreciate any opportunities to get our members on any of these projects. We are a skilled workforce. We lean on our training heavily, so,
How do you do with filling positions?
Our out-of-work list is seriously depleted. We're here at the last week of January. We're not used to not having anybody available. The Nexus Center in Utica is starting up. We got some guys driving pile down there right now. Foundations are gonna start in about 2 weeks. The hospital is right behind it, and we're currently engaged in negotiations with Excite Technology, the Creek project over there in Marcy. So we're getting loaded up pretty good. There's a lot of opportunities for anybody interested in working in the building trades, and we're meeting with Herkimer High School this afternoon to talk to the senior class about opportunities when they graduate. So we're out there, we're beating the streets, and we're looking for anybody that has an interest in a great career opportunity.
Get BOCES to change their name, you get a hell of a lot more students.
Yes, there is some there is some traction being gained with the state education department on their stance with, you know, shoving everybody to college and creating that student loan debt right from the beginning, which, you know, not devaluing a college education by any means. We're not all cut out for a continued career in education. And, you know, we are seeing a little bit of a shift in that direction. So,
What, maybe for both of you, what is being changed regarding the prevailing wage, or what was the government?
so they're working on a definition of public works, with a lot of the funding going out for projects, you know, under grant status and things like that. They're trying to get a little more accountability on some of these projects, because what the building trades find a lot of times is the IDA will give substantial financial assistance to a project, but then you go on a job and there's a lot of misclassified workers that are saying they're a subcontractor, so nobody's paying workers' comp, nobody's paying social security, no unemployment, you know, no taxes, you know, so really they're, you know, there's no oversight on these projects, really, is what it comes down to.
And I'm not knocking any of that, however, you just told us you don't have enough workers. You mandate me to do it now I can't build my project.
Right.
So what do I do there?
So I didn't say we didn't have enough workers. I said we're depleted in our out of work list and we're recruiting on a daily basis. We actually have a bunch of apprentice applicants came in yesterday for interviews. So we're gonna be indenturing some more apprentices. And,
Well, keep us informed on where you are with those numbers, because that's
Right.
critical, especially the new property.
So right now, out of our office, I handle all of our carpenter contacts, all right, so when we visit non-union jobs, if you will, we talk to different carpenters and people who are already doing the work, and we get their information. And, so I got about 150 of them on my desk right now. My desk is an absolute mess.
The problem is they have jobs too already, so
Right.
it's tough to convince them to do that program.
Right.
But-
So,
Well, they haven't defined anything yet either, and most
Right.
of it's gonna have to be if it's so much percentage on the size of the project and how much it's given in aid. So, you know, the key is you don't give away you don't give away 188 acres anymore, you can't do
Right.
that. You give them the pilot and the sales tax incentive, it should be less than what it's required. Unless it's $1 billion project, then they're gonna be prevailing wage no matter how you look at it.
and they may come up with different ways to, put some oversight on the projects to, you know, at least start combating some of the underground economy.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about.
So you don't give away 180, but you do give away 30,
That'll never get given away either. That's
all
right.
right.
And then just one other thing before we have to go in executive session, our meeting next month is Thursday, February 20th. I'm sorry, Pete, I'm reading this for you. No, you might not realize that, but Pete at the legislative means that's one of his jobs. He has many, but one of them at the end of the meetings is to say when the next meeting is. So, and John Stevens yells out something after that.
Second.
It doesn't really sound like that.
Yeah, but Jim knows what it is.
Okay. So just so you know, make note of that. It is earlier time frame. So we wanted to make you clear of that, and then we do need to go into executive session.
Okay, can I have a motion to go into executive session? And second, boy, this side, both sides here, so, all right, John second. All right. Motion carried. All right.
The purpose of going into executive session- Yeah, we gotta put, Victoria, wait 1 second before you shut it off. Before, we're going in to discuss, property purchases and negotiations.
Kill that thing.